Thanks, Bob. Okay, good morning, everyone. I forget if we're good to go. Seems like we are. We can get started up with the first item on the agenda. So I'll hand it over to Tina, please. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we're still going live.
I thought it said live on my top left. Sorry.
Okay, now it's live.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And we still need the applicant.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like the applicant has joined us, so I will introduce the first application.
Thank you.
This is a minor variance for a property at 369 Frederick Street. The minor variance is to zoning bylaw 85-1 for a reduced interior side yard setback and an increased floor space ratio. And this is to facilitate a 4-story addition to the existing residential care facility. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds that they meet all 4 and is recommending approval.
Okay, good. Thanks, Tina. We have one person registered in opposition. So following the standard protocol, we'll hear from that person first, and then we can ask questions or hear from the applicant. So that would be Sarah.
Hello, good morning.
Sarah.
Thank you for your time today. So I guess you'd like to hear what my concerns are, and we'll.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so we've certainly, I'm aware of the plan. It's been talked about for some time. We've had a number of discussions. The concern that me and my neighbors have, the primary concern that we still have has to do with the parking and the fencing along the back. Our concern, and this goes down East Avenue, the concern that we have has to do partly with the height differential of the property at Eric Audi. It's several feet higher than our property, so it creates some like a mismatch when like we see the tires of the cars when they drive by. So it's putting up a fence is only a partial solution, because then they also have to go higher to block the light. So there's a couple of factors that make this a little bit more difficult to deal with. The property plan have talked about putting up barriers, concrete barriers, so that cars can't just drive into our properties, which is of course important, and then putting up fences above that to block the light of the cars that they plan to have parked up against our properties. The part of the greater part of the remaining challenge that we have concern with is the fact that it creates a natural corridor. There's already a bit of a natural corridor in behind our property where our fences currently are. If you stand at Frederick Street and you look down the property line, their height versus our height creates like a pathway, and there's some evidence of garbage collection and reports from some of the neighbors that there's been some evidence of people or riffraff or the garbage that remains after people have been through there. And it's a concern that a few of my neighbors further down the street have raised to me and talked about. So to get past this, the property development has suggested, and many of the neighbors have expressed concerns about taking down the existing trees, which are beautiful. But that's neither here nor there. Part of what the property has suggested to mitigate this problem is to plant trees within the space, within the setback. And I do understand that the setback is greater than what the city bylaw actually requires. And the property has suggested planting trees between the 2 fences. The concern that I have with that, and some of my neighbors have confirmed that they share, is that we're not convinced that the trees would be enough to prevent the corridor. And thinking about this further, I'm a little unsure that the trees would get enough light to actually flourish in that space. I just don't see how the trees, with the fence at the back, the light comes from that direction. The existing trees block the light that come into my yard. The fence would have a similar effect if you plant trees in behind it. And again, it's like that height differential, it's higher. So the fence is going to block light coming in. At the end of the day, I get very little light in my yard to the back of that fence. So I don't I'm not, I just don't know what kind of trees we'll be able to plant in that space that would both grow and be effective in blocking traffic through that pathway. So this is the main piece that remains in terms of the concerns that we have, that we don't feel that we've come to a final solution on. We've talked about back and forth on a number of different ideas about if it was possible to not have the parking there. It's not. Like, I understand that also this is the meeting minimum parking requirements. Our concern is that the project will go forward and we won't have a solution, and that we'll end up with riffraff traversing through that area. And there is riffraff in the neighborhood. Like, I don't want to go too far into it, but you probably know already that there are some riffraff in the neighborhood, and yeah, that's what remains of our biggest concern.
Okay, good. Thanks, Sarah. Just a quick question, Tina, has the site plan been finalized subject to this yet, or is that still being negotiated?
The site plan is still under review.
Okay, all right, just so that we know that information. Okay, the applicant, maybe we'll hear from the applicant and he can address the opposition's concerns for us, and then I'll open the floor for questioning. So the agent would be Matthew, I take it?
Correct. Good morning.
There you are. Okay, great. Thanks. There you go, Matt.
So if I may, I'd like to provide a little bit of background. So first off, good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Warzak. I'm a planner with Polo Corp. Excuse me. I'm here today on behalf of People Care, owners of both 369 and 375 Frederick Street. Before I do go any further, I just want to note that there are two representatives from People Care here today. Wade Stever is the project manager for the property, or for this project, and Sheena Campbell is the vice president of communications and engagement. Both are available to answer any questions that the committee may have. In regard to the application before you today, I'd just like to start off with a little bit of background. So this project actually dates back to between 2017 and 2019, when previous applications for a consent, minor variance, and the site plan were approved to facilitate a 3-story addition to the existing long-term care home. This addition was located along the south side of the property and tied into the existing building to create an enclosed courtyard. The project, however, it did not immediately move forward, and the addition wasn't constructed. In the intervening time, the province allocated additional long-term care bed licenses to People Care, and they immediately began searching for opportunities to accommodate these. Initially, they searched for a new property. It shouldn't come as much of a surprise to learn that buying a new property, constructing it, going through all of the approvals, maintenance, staffing, all of that is very expensive. It also won't come as much of a surprise to learn that adding a story to a previously approved addition to an existing facility is not only the most efficient in terms of time and cost perspective, but it's also the most ideal for serving the community. And so People Care opted to pursue that option, which brings us to today. Before you is the application seeking a reduction to the minimum required interior side yard and an increase to the maximum FSR. What's important to understand is that these variances, there's no changes to the building footprint, and nothing has changed from the site plan that was approved back in 2019. We're simply just adding a 4th story to the previously approved 3-story plan. The reason the interior side yard changes or appears to change is because the minimum setback is based on the building height. And so the building height increases slightly, and so does the minimum setback. In regards to the height, we have taken a pretty close look at the interface between the properties to the south and the building addition. We've conducted an angular plane analysis to determine that the majority of the neighboring rear yards do conform to the 45-degree angular plane guideline, particularly for amenity areas like decks and patios. These analyses have all been reviewed and accepted by city staff. We've also held a number of consultations with neighbors, including a Zoom meeting back in August 2021. We've met with most of the abutting property owners back in November 21, and most recently held a neighborhood information meeting in this past July. These meetings were not only a great opportunity to meet the neighbors, but to receive comments and suggestions. And many of them have been integrated into the site plan, including the construction of an 8-foot fence along the length of the property, the planting of additional vegetation along the property line. And then to Ms. Benedictson's comment, we are planning to construct a low screen along the parking area that sits atop the hill that will block headlights will block headlights into the adjacent rear yards. In regards to comments pertaining to the creation of a corridor, this is something that we've discussed with the neighbors, almost all of the neighbors, and is something that we would actively like to try to address. And we're very welcome or very happy to receive any recommendations for solutions that Ms. Benediction or any other neighbors might have. What we have come to is providing that screen, providing and trying to fill in that area as much as possible with as much vegetation as possible. We've worked with a landscape architect to ensure that we're using species that will survive and thrive within that area and to create a dense foliage. The parking area will be lit, which will cast partially into that area as well. It is an active long-term care home. There will be parking coming and going along that stretch, as well as employees and residents coming and going. So that area should be monitored and regularly maintained. But unfortunately, the idea of trespassers wandering into areas that they shouldn't be is a concern that's found throughout the city right now. And it's not unique to necessarily this neighborhood or this specific spot. It is something that's found throughout the city, and it's something that many property owners are struggling with. So we're doing everything we possibly can. Every suggestion that has been made, we've considered. And if it is something that we see could be a solution, then we're more than willing to explore that as an option. As you pointed out, Chair, the site plan isn't fully approved at this point. We have submitted it. We are going through it. So there is the opportunity to make revisions if there is anything that could be functioning or that would work. But at this point, those are the strategies that we've taken. Ultimately, though, the proposed addition of the the 4th story to the 3-story plan is minor in nature and does meet the 4 tests, as staff pointed out. We've worked with the neighbors to mitigate and improve the boundary between the 2 properties as best we can. And ultimately, this will facilitate the creation of 128 much needed long-term care beds in the community. So with that, I'm here this morning to support staff's recommendation for approval of the applications, and would welcome the opportunity to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Good, thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Turn it over to my colleagues. Any questions, comments? Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions for staff, just for clarification. We're really realistically dealing with what I'm going to call a P-shaped property, or the hockey stick shaped property. The other I'm going to call rectangular shaped parcel is not in play here, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the concerns expressed by the resident, I can't read the plan, but I'm reading about a 3-meter setback between what would be the 8-foot fence and I'm going to say the screen fence right next to the parking area.
That is correct. The applicant can confirm, but it's my understanding from the file planner that the required setback is 1.5 and the applicant is providing 3 meters.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume that there's a landscape plan not included to our package that shows a bunch of different tree species that will, as the applicant said, that will survive in that 3-meter, 10-foot strip.
That is correct. That is a requirement of site plan approval. The file planner has also indicated to me that all trees on the East Ave properties are proposed to be preserved, and they're not proposing to remove any trees in shared ownership.
Perfect. Awesome.
Good. Anyone else? Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. First, a general comment to the applicant. You are going to be providing some very much needed, 128 very much needed long-term care units for a very significant problem. I understand the applicant's concerns. I live next to a commercial venture, and lighting can be a challenge. I'm hoping that through the site plan review process that the concerns from the neighbors have been heard, and compromises have been arranged as the applicant has indicated. So I think this is a great thing. I'm hoping that the applicant and city staff can work with the neighbors to come out with the best compromise possible for all concerned. And so, having made that comment, I am in support of this project.
Is that a motion, Bob?
Let me hear if Mike has.
Mike, do you have anything?
Well, I'm fully in agreement with Bob's comments, and am prepared to support this application.
Okay.
If you'd like me to make that motion.
If there's nothing else, in let's ratify this then.
Yep. Okay,
Bob?
then I have made a motion that this be approved as per the staff report.
Okay, Mike, you second, and then all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, I will introduce the next application.
Great, thanks.
This is minor variance for 6 Tweedsmuir Court. This is a minor variance to both zoning bylaws to permit an accessory structure to have a maximum height of 3.7 meters instead of 3 meters for the facilitation of a construction of a pavilion in the rear yard. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds that they meet all 4 and is recommending approval.
Great, thank you, Tina. Good morning, Michelle. This seems to be fairly straightforward in nature. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or motion? Bob?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is almost the definition of a minor variance.
Yeah.
3.0 versus 3.7. The GRCA, the region, no one's concerned. There's no objections from neighbors. So I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Second? Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Tina.
Okay, our next minor variance application is for a property at 175 Tartan Avenue. These are variances again to both zoning bylaws. A number of variances to facilitate the development of a townhouse development having 108 dwelling units in accordance with the site plan application currently under review. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and is recommending approval.
Okay, good. Thank you. I see the applicants online. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or motion? Scott?
The comment I'm going to make, Mr. Chairman, is I'm going to fully support this application. The reason for the side yard variances is because of the unique shape of the property. And it's only a tiny little section that we need to vary. And you'll notice, and I think the committee all know that the parking that's being provided actually meets the new bylaw. And so like when the time comes, I'm prepared to fully support the application.
Hey, does anyone else have anything else? Any other questions? Then I guess the time's come, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fully support the staff recommendation.
Okay, second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, our next minor variance application is for a property at 133 Pine Martin Crescent. This is a variance to the new zoning bylaw to allow a sunroom to be constructed at the rear of the existing single detached dwelling that will maintain the same setback as the existing dwelling, which is 0 meters. This is the only variance to the new zoning bylaw because an 85-1 is permitted. The regulation changed with the new zoning bylaw, so they got caught up with the new zoning regulation requiring the 1.2 meter setback. So staff have reviewed the variance in light of the four tests of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all four and is recommending approval.
Okay, good. Applicants online. Don, I have a quick question. I just want to confirm that the that is measured from the eaves trough, the front face of the eaves trough, and not the wall, correct? Is that a question? That's a question for the applicant, Don?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, we can now. Yep.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
So you said measuring from the eaves trough as opposed to the wall itself?
Yes.
Okay, the eaves trough comes out the front of the house?
It's out the front. It's not
It's out the
outside. Okay. I thought for some reason when I looked at this, it was running along the side.
There is one on the other side, I believe.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had the same initial concern, but when I looked at the application, there is a maintenance easement along that side of the property, and I believe there are actually some architectural projections that actually overhang already, but I'm not concerned because there is that maintenance easement.
Okay.
If I could just add that photo C that I submitted doesn't show an eaves trough, but there is one on the opposite side of the house.
On the opposite side, okay. Okay, anyone else have any questions, comments? Bob?
Very quickly, Mr. Chair, if I'm not getting my pages all mixed up here, I believe there's a neighbor in support of this application. It's always nice to see that as opposed to opposed. I think this is a great minor addition to this particular property. The owners will think it's great. I will draw your attention to the photograph on page 141 of our application, and it does show an eaves trough on the other side of the house. So I'm prepared to move that this be approved as per the staff report.
All right, second. Scott, all in favor? Carried, thank you.
Thank you, committee. Thank you, Tina. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, our next application is for a property at 23 Bosworth Crescent. This is a minor variance to both zoning bylaws. The applicant would like to change the garage into living space and has requested the required off-street parking spot be located 1.7 meters from the street line or property line rather than the required 6 meters. Staff have reviewed the application in light of the four tests of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all four and is recommending approval.
Okay, just a quick question. In the planning or staff report, it makes reference to drawings. We didn't have any drawings in our package, and I'm just wondering why not. So we're being asked to approve something with a specific reference to specific drawings, but we haven't seen the drawings. I think we'll find that's the case with the next application too.
I believe the drawing was just the survey plan that's in the attachment to the staff report, showing the location of the building in relation to the front lot line.
That's not what it makes reference to, because this that we have is a John Metz survey, and it doesn't match up with the Isabel Barnes dated August 17th, 2022. So if we're approving something, I think we should maybe, yeah, Scott?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I can also assist you, I had similar concerns, and I had a question of the applicant. Normally, when we see a conversion of a garage, it's in conjunction with potential conversion to a 2-unit dwelling. And there are regulations about access and things like that. This indicates a single detached home. So I'm a bit confused by that. And I just want confirmation from the applicant that this is a conversion for additional space in a single detached home and not a duplex.
Jacqueline, you're on mute.
I'm so
Wait,
sorry.
That's all
My
right.
husband and I have 3 children. We have a 17-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And the oldest is a girl and the youngest is a girl. And we have a very small dwelling with 3 bedrooms. And we have a teenager living upstairs and no one wants to bunk with her. So what we are planning on doing is turning our route. We were considering upsizing, but at this point, unfortunately, that's not something that we're going to be able to do. So what we planned on doing is converting our garage into and fully a permanent conversion into a bedroom for one of our children or for us. We think it's going to be for the teenager, but we're working on that. But there are 0 plans for any type of a separate dwelling. It is absolutely going to be a bedroom, 100%.
Okay, Jacqueline, just a quick question for you. Did you submit drawings with this?
My understanding is my mother worked very closely with the city, with Julian and with another gentleman, and we went back and forth. It was our first time doing this, and we thought, I'm very concerned because I thought we had it all done. She's away on vacation, or she would have attended this meeting for me. She's out east. But my understanding, we went through everything. I was on the phone with her last night. My understanding was that it was staff approved and everything was in order. And so I really apologize. Like I thought I kind of came to the meeting and nodded. I did not realize that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And personally myself, I'm not in objective, or I'm not in objective to your application. I can support it. It's just that, and I just want to make sure that my colleagues also are comfortable with when there's recommendation referencing drawings. We haven't seen the drawings. That puts us in I think a bit of an awkward position.
I'm so sorry.
And that's
so sorry.
I'm not putting blame on anyone. I'm just dealing with the fact. That's it. So that's why hence where the questions were coming from. So
I totally understand.
In that regard, right? Because usually we'll see an elevation of some kind that shows how it's going to look from the streetscape, because the garage won't usually be there, right? And then usually what's being done with the space inside the property. So
my understanding is the contractors would like us to get the variance first. It's been very, very difficult to get contractors in. It's been very, very difficult to get quotes. We have been trying to do our kitchen for 2 years. So we're really struggling. Our kids really do need their own bedrooms sooner rather than later. I got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old who are going to murder each other. So I'm working on it. But the contractors we talked to were very concerned that we have the variance, it seems. And I don't know if that's because they want to make sure that we're serious because they are so busy. But that was my understanding as to why we weren't able to sort of have a preliminary plan, is that we're not we're not, construction people, and we weren't able, we've talked about getting quotes, but people do seem interested in us having that variance.
Okay, so then the next question arises, if there isn't a preliminary plan or a plan that's referenced here, then should this even be in the recommendation?
Yeah, no, I can clarify.
You
Sorry,
might confuse
I'm
it, right,
yes,
Tina?
no, exactly. I'm going through the application and trying to determine where this came from. So
Yeah.
it appears it may be a typo on the file planner. So I would suggest that for that line of the recommendation can be removed.
Okay, all right, good. Well, at least we caught that, so that it's
Yes,
not
thank you.
something that
I'm so sorry.
was a.
No, it's
right?
not.
Yeah, we don't
No,
need,
it's a
we don't
staff
need a
report
problem
issue.
later on, so.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so then you're recommending that we would remove generally in accordance with drawings prepared by that and right to 2022.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Same with the one underneath then as
Yes,
well.
yes, please.
All right. Okay. Anyone have questions or comments, or Scott?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be happy to move the modified resolution. I am convinced now that we're dealing with a detached home, and I wish the applicant well. So I will fully support the staff recommendation as modified.
Yeah, and I don't really want to unnecessarily hold them up either. So that's good. Thanks, Scott. Bob?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm with Mr. Hanna on this. And I think the applicant really would like to move ahead. I understand the issue of children living at home. And I'm sure our colleague, Mr. Kidd, understands the challenges of getting contractors to come and do stuff. seeing that there's really no external modifications to the building, it's just except maybe replacing the garage door.
Yeah.
I think we don't need drawings for one this simple. So I'm in support of this. And
So that's a second. All in
Yep.
favor?
Yep.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jackie.
There you
Thank
go.
you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, get your bedroom.
Yes.
I think you'll find contractors' pricing will start to come down too. I'm seeing that now myself. So, okay, next one.
Okay, our next application is a minor variance for 60 Crosswinds Drive. This is a minor variance to both zoning bylaws, reduction of a rear yard setback from 7.5 to 7.2 to facilitate the construction of a new single detached dwelling. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the four tests, or the variance in light of the four tests of the Planning Act, and finds that it meets all four and is recommending approval.
Okay, questions, comments, motion? Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just simply because it's an odd shaped lot and a variance from 7.2 to 7.5 is very minor. So I think we have the same issue of drawings prepared by JD Barnes. So ignoring that for the moment, I'm prepared to move that this be approved as per staff report.
Sounds good. And actually, this one it's a survey from JD Barnes, so maybe that's where the confusion was.
Okay.
Not necessarily drawings. It should be maybe referenced as a survey instead of the word drawings.
Yeah,
we
with the survey.
may want to amend that. I don't think staff would have a problem with that, because there only is one survey anyways. So-
No, that's
Okay.
fine. Yep.
Okay,
thank
Scott, before we
That was
move
going to be
forward.
my suggestion, Mr. Chairman, that we actually just say in accordance with a survey prepared by.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question for staff, and it's just for interest. It says the building permit was issued for this. Was that issued inadvertently? Because it doesn't comply. It says on page 190 of my report that the building permit was issued. So I'm going to assume that we're trying to correct an error.
I am not aware of a building permit, I guess. Let me just read the building division comments in the staff report indicate the building division has no objections, provided a building permit for the new single detached is obtained prior to construction. But the staff report indicated that a building permit had been issued.
Line 3,
Page 190.
September 21.
Okay. Then it's possible that it was issued in error.
Mind you, the comments from the building department still state that it hasn't been issued, that we
Yeah.
new one. So I would almost personally, I think that we should rely on the comments from the building department and maybe say that the crossover interpretation was maybe incorrect, and we may want to even correct that in the staff report. I'm not sure, Tina, but
Yes, no, I went directly to the comments from the building
Yeah.
division, and those are the comments that I would take because they are
Right
directly
from
involved
the
in the
department.
permits. Yeah, right from
Yeah.
the department. So
Yeah.
staff has obviously typoed again in the staff report.
yeah,
Okay.
which happens, but we might want to clean that up
Yep.
as part of this as well, so there's no confusion if anyone refers to it, I guess, in the future. And then, so Bob, I think you still have a motion on the floor with an amendment, to the recommendation to replace the word drawings with survey in two spots, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's, and then then the staff can clean that report. Thanks for that one. And so second, then, Scott, was that a second? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Good. Okay.
Okay, our next minor variance application is for our property at 6 Marianne Dorn Trail. This is a minor variance to both zoning bylaws for reduction in side yard setback for exterior side yard stairs to facilitate an additional dwelling unit in the single detached dwelling. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the four tests of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all four and is recommending approval.
Okay, good. Before we carry on, there's a GRCA fee that should be included as a condition on this as well, please. And Anyone have any questions, comments, or motions? Scott?
Is the applicant available? Because I just had a quick question. I was out to actually see this site, and the area where the access is to the side yard stairs, there's a significant slope between both properties. And there are also downspouts that are interrupting path of travel. And I just wanted to understand what the applicant's game plan was to make the slope less, and also what the drainage is going to be dealt with for this application.
So we're not gonna not gonna change the slope on that side there at all. We're gonna leave the slope of the grade as is, and then just create that deck or that little landing there for the door. And then with regards to the drainage, we were thinking that it would just continue to be on the sidewalk there. But as I'm saying that doesn't really sound significant for winter time, but that part hasn't been thought through completely.
Okay, just a follow-up question for staff then, Mr. Chairman. Does the building division look at things like grading and slope? Because path of travel there, it's going to be pretty awkward in the winter time.
Yes, so I did discuss with the building division whether they look at grading through the building permit process, and they advised me that they do not. Sidewalks, retaining walls under 2 feet, and other alterations in the side yard which do not require building permits, which may impact the grading, happen frequently, and they do not tie this into the building permit process for the stairs.
Okay, just for my fellow committee members, on page 208 of our report, that's what led me to go out and see this site. You can see the swale and the drainage that's being directed to that swale. I have no problem with duplexing this particular house. I have no issue with the variance that's being requested. I just think that from a functional standpoint, it's going to be very difficult for somebody to get through there, but that's just me.
No, that's a good pickup, Scott. I see your concern, and I guess one alternative would be to see a small retaining wall system set up with the gravel base for drainage underneath it. That would help with drainage back out to the front of the street.
I mean, obviously the neighbor's not here, so the neighbor has no concerns. So I guess I'm not going to pick it up, but I just thought it was a little bit awkward.
Anyone else, Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I echo Mr. Hanna's concerns. There's also a gas meter in that area too. For the drainage, a simple thing would be to rotate the downspouts 90 degrees and have them come out the front as opposed to the side. But I also have another question, and maybe it's just me being confused. I'm concerned there's two different, well, let me start back up. According to the pictures that we see of this dwelling, there's a double car garage out the front, which means there would be parking, 2 inside the garage and 2 on the driveway. But yet in the drawings that we see on page 209, it's showing only 1 parking space in the garage and 1 parking space out the front. Am I missing something here?
Those are just the 2 required parking spots that are required for the secondary unit. So one would be used for the main floor unit and one would be used for the basement unit. So even though you have room for more parking, those are just the 2 required shown.
So you still have, you still have the other spot inside, right?
Yeah, there's still room for the other spot inside. I'm just showing the 2 required parking spots, one for the basement and one for the main floor.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay, then, Mr. Chair, back to what Scott has brought forward.
Yeah.
I think some more thought on the applicant's part about access in between the 2 buildings with the gas meter and the downspouts. It's going to be troublesome in the winter unless it is a paved sidewalk of some kind. So not that I'm making that a condition. I think that some more thought needs to go into that at the final construction stage. Other than that, I'm prepared to support this application as amended with the GRCA fee.
Okay, second. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you.
Okay, our next minor variance application is for a property at 131 Pinedale Drive. This is a minor variance to permit a driveway to be located 0.78 meters from the intersection of street lines rather than the minimum 9 meters in 85-1 and 7 meters in the new zoning bylaw 2019-051. Staff have reviewed the variance in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval.
Okay, quick question. Are we approving an existing condition or is this something that's being revised? And in which case is there going to be any curb work required? Because if there's curb work, I think we need some conditions or condition regarding that. Steve, maybe do you know?
Typically, we do have a curb cut permit, like approval process.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I'm not sure if that's something that can be a condition of the application. I'm not sure if that's happened in the past.
Yeah, we've done that before in the
Okay.
past. And that way we just ensure that someone just doesn't go ahead and do this without getting the proper specifications and approval from the city, and because they are cutting into your curb, it's not their curb to start with, right? So
True. I would not be opposed to have that condition added in if the committee chooses. We wouldn't. I don't think I would have any concerns with the curb cut as the proposal is shown, given we don't have any concerns with the application overall. So if that's something, Tina, that can be added into as a condition, I would not be opposed to that.
Scott?
I shared similar concerns, Mr. Chairman, and I had a question of the applicant because it appears that there's also the intent to remove the hedge, which I think is necessary, which is causing a bit of a visibility problem or will continue when this driveway is widened. Does the applicant online, and I have a question for him or her, when do you plan on removing that hedge?
Good morning, committee.
Morning.
How are you? Yeah, we are cutting all those edges and make it to the visibility for that corner spot. So once we are making that driveway, then we will cut, before we start the work, we will cut all these shrubs and make it according to the requirements.
If I suggested to my colleagues that we impose another condition that requires that hedge to be removed, say by December 1st, would you have any objection to that?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay.
Just
yes.
Sorry, just a quick question for the applicant. Is it your plan to replace that hedge with a barrier fence of some description?
Yes, we're trying to put a metal fence there, like 3 feet, as I think it's a good size, 3 feet height.
On the Williamsburg length, at least on that side yard? That's Williamsburg Road on the left of the photograph, correct?
Yeah, where are the existing shrubs? Are we planning to put a fence up there?
And it just, in accordance with the recommendation, it can't be more than 0.9 meters, just so that, you know, which is close to 3 feet, but not really 3 feet. So
okay.
Be aware of that. That's
sure. Sure.
Okay. Anyone else, or Scott, do you want to do a motion? Oh, yeah, Steve, do you have your hand up?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I would also just advise that if the applicant wishes to install a fence along there, it has to be below that 0.9 meter height limitation, as well as I would recommend it be some like constructed material that is see-through, so a chain link fence or something like that, if that is what you're intending to do or the applicant is intending to do, just because that would impede sightlines a bit more than it needs to. So I would advise that not to use a solid material for the fence.
Right. Yeah, so chain link or wrought iron.
Sure.
Wrought iron would probably look nice if you can swing that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If no one has any other comments, I'm going to support this application subject to 2 additional conditions. One being that the existing hedge be removed by December the 1st to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, and that a curb cut be applied for and approved to the satisfaction again of the city. And just a comment to the applicant, that new fence would have to abide by, as staff has said, the height and locational requirements of the bylaw. So before you install it, make sure you check.
Sure.
Okay. Motion on the floor, second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next minor variance application is an application for permission. This is for a property at 527 Wellington Street North. This is a application to permit the existing single detached dwelling to expand to have another dwelling unit within the same building. So it is the dwelling unit's already there. The applicant would like to legalize the additional dwelling unit in the single detached dwelling. Staff have reviewed the application in light of the 2 tests for permission and finds that it meets both and is recommending approval.
Okay, questions, comments? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you to staff, and maybe it's just because it's a Wednesday or whatever day it is. Can you explain to me what the difference between an attached? Yeah, what's the difference between an attached additional dwelling unit and a duplex?
There is no difference. There is just a difference in the way the bylaw defines it and looks at it. So 85.1 would call it a duplex, and the new zoning bylaw calls it a single detached with an additional dwelling unit attached.
So under the new bylaw, there are no more duplexes. They are
Correct.
just additional dwelling units. Okay.
Yes.
I was just a little confused on that. That does happen from time to time. So there's no conditions from anyone, no objections. So I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
All right, second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, our next minor variance application is for a property at 10 College Street. This is a minor variance to permit a reduced parking rate. So reducing the parking requirement from 126 parking spaces to 58 parking spaces to facilitate the development of a 24-story building with 223 dwelling units in accordance with the site plan application currently under review with the city. Staff has reviewed the variance in light of 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds it meets all 4 and is recommending approval.
Okay, good. Just a cleanup on the staff report. So on the first page under background, it says that it's at the corner of Ontario and Weber, and it's not. It's at the corner of College and Weber. So we should clean that up, please. And otherwise, does anyone have any questions or comments or a motion? Scott.
When the time comes, Mr. Chairman, if nobody has any other comments, I'm going to support this. Again, this is one of those sites that's caught between the 2 bylaws. Under the 2 bylaw, it wouldn't require any parking spaces. And the only, again, comment that I make to staff is it's relying on, it says municipal parking facilities. So I hope those are being monitored as these things get built. So I fully support the application when the time comes.
All right. Anyone else?
Just a quick question, that more curiosity than anything, but is there a parking space number for what's being used up here? How many, this surface parking where the construction is going to go, how many parking spots were there? Are we awash with the 58 that are going to be in the new building? Does anyone have a number?
What are you referring to, Mike? Are you referring to what's currently existing there now? Because I believe it is a parking lot, right?
Yeah, that's it. It does say that it's developed with a surface parking lot. I'm just curious as to how many spots are on that that we're going to lose to the construction and replace by 58. Just a curiosity.
I think I'll let the applicant answer that. I would believe that you'll gain more than what's there now, but there'll be exclusive use to the development, but.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair, through you to the member. Yeah, definitely the amount of parking that we'll be replacing is more than what's there today.
Yeah.
The surface parking lot that's there today is provided in support of the Shoppers Drug Mart, but through their lease negotiations, they no longer require that parking. And there's 2 levels of underground parking being proposed for the new building, plus 14 surface parking spaces, I believe. So there will definitely be more parking provided now, but as the chair noted, it will be exclusive use for the residents of the building that is being developed.
Right. Right. And you know, just back to your comment, Scott, to Mr. Hanna, that, you know, I know that they're not really monitoring these spots. They are at a premium now, but that really, when you look at the new zoning, it's not a factor in any event. So I don't really know why it was even written into this report, because it shouldn't be a determining factor. But in any event, if there's any other questions or no other questions, do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion that the application be approved as submitted.
All right, second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, our next minor variance application is for a property at 132 Woolwich Street. Variances to both bylaws. First variance is to 85-1 to permit a multiple dwelling as a permitted use, and change the parking rate from 1.25 parking spaces per unit to 1.15. And then variances to the new zoning bylaw, which would permit the multiple dwelling use and permit the reduced parking rate, with the exception that they now require a front yard setback variance and a floor space ratio variance. So staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval to facilitate the development of the property with 31 dwelling units in accordance with the site plan currently under review.
Okay, good. We had one person registered in opposition. Is he available? We'll hear from him first.
Mr. Chair, it doesn't look like he's on.
Okay. We also, just for the record, we did have a couple letters of opposition that both letters basically said the same thing. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Motion, Scott.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to acknowledge the letters that came into as letters of objection, just for the record, because most of them dealt with use. And I wanted to confirm with staff that if the new zoning bylaw were in place, the use and the parking would fully comply. It's the other 2 variances that would not, that being the setback and the floor space ratio. But the use itself should not be an issue here.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. And then when the time comes, Mr. Chairman, I would fully support the application as presented.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, just a procedural question here, Mr. Chair. This is on the border between Kitchener and Waterloo. And and as the planning staff are required to do, they send out notices to neighbors within 50 meters or whatever it is. Would the people across the borderline into Waterloo receive the same notification?
Tina? Actually, that would be probably Maryland, correct?
That's
Oh.
correct.
Yes, I'm actually not sure the answer to that. I could get the deputy clerk on.
They should have been, Bob.
I just wanted to make sure that that did happen.
They have been in the past. I know
Okay.
that when we've had similar situations. So even though they're in a different, it goes by, it's a determination of radius and proximity and not really what municipality that you're in, because it would be the same for any other boundary areas within the city as well.
That's what I was hoping, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
And as Mr. Hanna has noted, there are some written submissions which are very similar. They should be noted. I'm going to say to anyone else who's interested, there's going to be some major changes to this road as time goes along, as we're always looking for redevelopment, infill properties. And the neighbors are going to be in for some interesting times in the future. Having said that, the new bylaw does permit this. And there's no region, no GRCA. So I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Second, Scott, all in favor? Mike, did you have something or you're just
No.
in favor?
No.
Okay, good. All in favor. Passed. Thanks, Scott.
Hello, Mr. Chair. I just looked on file. I wanted to confirm that yes, the city of Waterloo was notified.
Yeah, that's generally been the practice that I've been familiar with. So, okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, our next minor variance application is for a property at 224 Jeffrey Place. These are variances to the new zoning bylaw, so bylaw 2019-051, as the dwelling would comply with 85-1. So the applicant is requiring variances, three minor variances to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all 4 and are recommending approval.
Okay, good. Once again, there should be a condition here for the GRCA fee, please, to be put in. Okay, does anyone have any questions, comment or a motion? Bob?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad you picked up on that GRCA fee. We have to make sure the GRCA gets their fair share, always, or when necessary. So having said that, it's vacant land, it's a minor variance, and no one else is apparently concerned. So I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, our next application before the committee this morning is a consent application for 78 to 80 Old Chicopee Drive. Staff is recommending that this application be deferred to a March 2023 meeting. The reason being is that during the review of the consent, staff noticed a shed that was constructed on the property line in the rear. The applicant would like the option of following up to see whether the shed can be moved or whether they would like to shift the property line. So staff is recommending that this application be deferred to give the applicant some time to determine what option they would like to pursue.
Okay, good. Thomas, you're in agreement with that?
Yep, that works.
Okay, good. Thank you. So motion for deferral. Bob, second. Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, our next application is another application for consent for 124 Walker Street. This is requesting consent to sever a semi-detached dwelling currently under construction. Staff have reviewed the consent in light of all policies and finds that it meets all of those, recommending approval subject to a number of conditions.
Okay, good. Just a quick question for the applicant. Foundations are poured already? You're on mute.
Sorry, that's correct. It's framed as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. This is going to be right up your alley then. The foundations are already poured. So do I have a motion?
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, Bob.
I think unless I missed up on something, I thought there was a late submission from someone with regards to this property.
It was
And
in support.
It was in support.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Okay,
Yeah.
and then in that case, did Scott, oh, this is up Scott's alley.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. We'll let
We'll
him.
Scott
Yeah,
carry it on this one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fully support the staff recommendation to sever an existing semi under construction.
Second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Great, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, our next series of applications are for consent again. These applications relate to properties address 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 21, 23, and 25 Shady Creek Drive. There are applications for consent to create 0.9 meter wide access easements for townhouse dwellings currently under review and construction. I guess I will look and see if they have a site plan. Staff have reviewed the applications in light of all policies and finds that it meets all of them and is recommending approval.
All
Subject
right.
to conditions.
Right. Okay. Questions, comments, or a motion? Anyone? Bob?
Yes, just to clarify, Mr. Chair, we are going to be dealing with all 8 of these and in one situation. Staff will have to do the wording on that as they send out the final reports, but they're all very similar. They're just easement access easements. So I move that this be approved for all 8 applications.
All right. Second. Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, last application.
Yes, our last application is a change of conditions consent application for 41 Ardell Place. The applicant would like to amend conditions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 and delete them and replace them with the following condition number 10. The conditions can be satisfied by an agreement to the satisfaction of the Director of Engineering.
Okay, there's once again, I think there's a region fee that needs to be put in as a condition as well. And am I correct here? Just hang on a sec, please. No, there isn't. I'm sorry. But they were asking for a condition for source protection plan compliance to be inserted at this time. Just to the applicant, do you have a problem with that, Steve?
Not really. I'm going through it on a site plan application already, so it's a familiar process.
Yeah, okay, all right. So that's a condition that should get inserted as well. And does anyone have any questions, comments, or motion? Scott?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a comment. I like the approach that's being taken on this as being an industrial application. A lot of times you don't know who you're selling to, et cetera, et cetera. So it's good that you deal with the servicing issues at site plan. I would fully support the application subject to the additional condition and actually suggest that staff do this more often when it comes to industrial applications. So.
Good. Second? Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Mike, second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Thanks. Great.